Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about
Sex,
love,
magic,
desire,
purpose,
bliss,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves.
So this is our very first official season about bliss, which is the third letter in our name, in KMB, right? So karma, we've done more than enough episodes on karma.
More.
I'm going to puke of karma. Like, I'm so over karma. We have 4 books on karma, or 3.5. And we have magic and all those seasons around magic. And we have woven in bliss because bliss was effectively the end point of those seasons, because eventually we're like, the goal is, I really hate saying that there's a goal. We're all just evolving toward things and something. And for some, it's not all bliss. But for many, especially as we said, there are a lot of souls, the young ones, there are some that are coming in on the bliss vibration. So one of the reasons we need to explore bliss, even though it seems a bit premature, given where our world is at, we need to understand what it is and where we're heading. Whether it applies to us or it applies to our children or our children's children, it is important for us to understand what the ultimate, if you want to say end game, is.
So what is this season about?
Up till now, we've talked about the karmic undoing process. We've talked about how magic can allow us to avail ourselves of our power in ways in which we never imagined we could use it, which is why magic is so essential, especially after karma. But we can't rest in magic. Magic is not a place in which you stay. It is just, how would you say it? It's the accessory to to our lives. It's not the main point.
No, the main point is to fulfill our fates.
Exactly. And the end point of our fates is ultimately bliss if we choose to get there. Again, and that is a choice we make. Okay, you've gone through your karmic undoing process. You've been through hell. You've practiced magic. You realize how amazing and spectacular your life can be and how you're the one creating it as you go along. You're living your fate. You've realized your purpose. So you are, for all intents and purposes, happy. Mm-hmm. That is the end game of our fate. But there is a point in which, and you say this throughout the karmic books, there's a point in which I realized I wanted more. Mm-hmm. So even when you are unhappy, there are some of us who might decide, I need more than this. Happy is enough, but there's something about my life that I'm feeling like could be more than enough. And I need to use everything that I'd experienced through my life and all the power I've accumulated and realized that I am, and I want to go realize what that is. So we're going to expand upon bliss as we go throughout this season. So we're not going to kind of belabor this very first episode with, this is where you should be going. But ultimately, the path to bliss is the result of the decision that you want more than what you already have. And I don't mean in terms of material things. It's just more experiences, just more. It's born from a place of curiosity. How far can my power stretch, really? And how far can I take my fate and even the unwritten part of my fate? The one thing, though, the one element that is crucial to this piece, which is why it feels a little like we're a little ahead of ourselves, but we're just going to get there anyway, and we're just going to be okay with this 4 years from now, is that you have to have complete agency when it comes to bliss. And so with that, you have to ensure that your entire existence and your capacity to thrive is not dependent upon anything or anyone else. That is a really big deal because most people cannot say that they are, because they derive their power from something else. By the time we've reached this space, we are going to have the people in our lives that we're going to have for the most part, right? As in, we've lost whomever we've lost throughout our karmic undoing process. It's not to say more people won't enter your lives at all, or, life does not remain still that way. But you'll have shed a fair number of the people that you've needed to shed because they were only part of your karmic story, or they weren't necessarily comfortable with who you owned yourself to become when you were in magic. So remember, it was probably around episode 4, we talked about how while you don't suck up all the oxygen in the room, to be able to be that really powerful person required you to take up space. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of people who aren't necessarily comfortable with that, because they don't allow themselves that space. So by the time you're on the path to bliss, you're pretty much in your fullest self. And those who are around you are also then able to manage that or hold that with you. Maybe in small doses, and maybe there are people from your past who aren't used to it. And so maybe you see them on occasion, but they may not be they may not either be your ride or dies or the people that you see consistently. Because sometimes by the time you've reached this point, it's easier to be friends with newer people who don't remember you, who don't remember your story.
For so much of my life, and when we're in our karma, and even at the start of magic, I was using it to keep me safe. Mm-hmm. I was so scared of getting hurt, even though I wasn't actually scared of getting hurt, that I just avoided risk to a degree, where I could, where it, felt right to me or whatever. But actually, in hindsight, I wasn't living. And all the stuff I was teaching, which is I was doing, but I was living in small doses. And what I actually wanted to do was live all the time.
Bliss is ultimate living.
Love has always been the cornerstone of my life. And, through love, as we've discussed in all the seasons and all the books, you heal the karmic story, you shine your light, it directs you where to go.
Yes. Which we also discussed, I think it was like episode 4 of our last season.
Can you tell that Liz just listened to episode 4 of season 12?
I did. And I'm going to make it seem like I remember this shit. I'm going to use it.
Now everyone knows how far ahead we record.
We're very open about that.
Yeah. But actually, what's interesting is that it wasn't the love that was pushing me forward. Yes, I knew where I shined my light and I knew I wanted more of it and I knew the direction because of love.
Yes.
But actually, it required something else. And it was courage, I think, for me, and desire and will. And I think just a full appreciation. I wanted to appreciate my life and all my experiences in it.
Yeah.
I think that's what it actually was. So it wasn't so much love of, I can just glide through this and follow my light wherever it leads. It was, I want to take every single ounce of joy and passion and purpose from these relationships, experiences, hobbies, purposes, all the things I'm doing. And I want to experience it all. I want to juice it properly.
Yeah. Which is effectively what we might call baby bliss.
Yeah.
As in that awareness that I want to make the most of everything in my life. And it's enough to say, God, I think when we talk about the path of the bliss, what I don't want people to get lost in is this sense of it will never be enough.
Yeah. Also, my version of this morning of I hate bliss because it requires me to do shit again. But it's not that. And so I'll just say it's literally the moment. For me, the difference, and I'm not saying I'm in bliss, but the difference for me was coming out of my karma. It was, I love you, let's say, or I love this. I feel like I am shining. And it moved to, I'm just so happy I get to love you. It was this profound appreciation times a million of, I get to shine my light like this. And that was really fucking cool.
And this is the difference between karma and bliss. Magic is kind of the linchpin, but again, we've said before in previous somewhere we've said it. You don't necessarily need magic to get to bliss. Because there are some who just won't do it. They won't bother because they want their power for other things.
Yes.
They're so committed to their fate, they're so committed to their mission, they're so committed to whatever.
And their workhorse is in a different way, whereas you and I are like, this isn't easy, why are we doing it? That's literally, by the way, where I'm at in life. I was like, getting out of my karma was so fucking hard, and then writing about it, and then editing about it, and talking about it, and then teaching about it. I was like, if things aren't easy from now on, I'm just not engaging, and that is just how it is. And I'm really okay with that. I'll have my my revelations. I'll have my moments of down. I'll have all these things where I'm facing little pieces of myself that I didn't even realize were still kind of around. But unless it's easy, they're being left there. It's not happening.
And if we can really understand that, and I'm going to circle back, I'm going to keep circling back. God, I really hope it's the only episode that I keep doing it in. which is, and we also need to understand magic to that degree because we need to understand the younger generations who hold it, where it comes naturally. Because
that's the
we
thing.
keep wondering, because everybody keeps wondering, everybody from my generation, people have been bitching about this all weekend to me, which is, why do they expect everything to be so easy? And I'm like, because they're kind of magical.
Yeah. But that's kind of, I think that's where I'm at as well. I'm like, if it's not easy, I'm not interested. If I have to put myself through the workhorse of disaster, I'm not doing it. Don't get me wrong. I work fucking hard. I work hours and hours, and I'm happy to do that. I enjoy it. As I said, I'm so happy I get to love like that.
Yes.
But if I'm having to put myself through grueling times, fuck that shit.
Then karma
Just being
teaches
really
us. We get you. And karma teaches us that it's through pain that we can resurrect ourselves and that we can learn and stuff. And we have all these younger people telling us that's not the case. And it's true because they don't have karma.
And also, just to add, because it's something I did consider yesterday, I learn fundamentally a quadrillion times better through joy than through pain. And I think actually everyone does, but we've been taught that that's not possible. But if you think about it, the fact that we could wake up every morning and we still give our days a shot is because there are some parts of our days that are nice. That's why we wake up. We don't wake up to get through the shit stuff. I learned how to love because it worked out when I followed my heart. If it didn't work out when I followed my heart, I wouldn't have done it. Therefore, I was learning through joy that whole time.
Absolutely.
I wasn't learning through pain.
No.
And that's the thing that I think the fundamental perspective shift when it comes to a lot of this is that when you look at the karmic undoing process and when you think about karma, you think, oh, I'm learning through pain because I'm seeing where I'm out of my power. No, you're seeing what happens when you get into your power. And then magic is you're seeing what happens when you use that power. And so bliss is effectively you're seeing what happens when you plus your power equals bliss.
Mm-hmm. Well,
does that make sense? I mean, in my little way.
But power plus. Because bliss, I mean, yeah. I mean, fair.
Divinity times a million equals bliss, you know. But it's just that. No, I get it. I get it. Bliss is a divine experience. I understand.
It really is. And it's only possible if we grasp that we are the divine. Hence the entire karmic undoing process. Hence the exercising our magic. Because we have to see what we are really capable of, which is so much more than we've ever thought. And like you said, we keep going and we keep persisting in our human experience, not because life is shit. It's because we've had brackets of joy. We've had brackets of fun. We've had brackets of something so holy and perfect and divine, even in the briefest of seconds or minutes, that we know that there's something else beyond the painful exterior of our lives and
that's why we want more. But that's also what I find so interesting about love, because actually when you're in that space, when you know really that you're the divine, and I can't believe I'm the one saying this, but I will say it. Love is just a part of that. It's just, it's a given, but it's kind of, so that it's just part of bliss, I guess. Because love becomes like, I can't explain it. It's just like, I'm so happy I get to love you. Why? Because I'm the divine. So the divine becomes the core, not love. Does that make sense?
It totally does, and I can't believe that came out of your mouth. I'm so happy and
but it makes sense because the expression of the divine is love, but the core is the divine bit.
Yes. But the divine does express more than love once it is capable and in a position to be more.
But it's better than love. It's like all caps love.
Yeah, and it's more than that though. You get to a point where then it's more than all caps love.
It's
if
flying
that makes
love.
sense.
It's unicorns and rainbows love.
It's bliss. So love effectively gets absorbed into the bliss vibration because it cannot take up all that space because it's not as big as bliss.
But bliss feels better?
It's just awesome.
Okay.
Because it just holds more. So you have more experiences, because if everything is because of love, you still end up having to fit it into this spectrum of love, even if it's capital LOVE love, which is really broad. And I get that, but you've got to be able to extend that out. And bliss is that full extension.
So I'm basically just seeing how ungrounded this season is. And
I can't say that I'm thrilled about that. Because we don't love I think you and I both agree we don't like to get super theoretical.
No.
Because spirituality in theory is just really boring.
No, and as I said in Karmic Adventure, right? Like, I didn't learn about the divine by sitting on a couch. I actually learned the opposite. I learned about the divine by living.
Yeah.
And by being human and affording that beautiful mixture of knowing you're divine but getting to play on this physical plane, right?
Yeah. Which is the point. So we need these uniquely human experiences. We just have to be able to expand them out in a way in which we are experiencing everything.
But what I
use the word all.
I know, I'm really impressed with you. But what I can say is that no matter how advanced anyone's conscious becomes or anything like that, I guess if we can conceive of it, then it's possible. If we can conceive that we're just all the time so fucking happy we call it bliss, then it's possible. And that's maybe as far as we need to go in terms of proving it.
And so what's the point? There always has to be a point. We didn't just talk about karma for a handful of years just to kind of like jack off on spirituality and karma.
Yeah, but to be fair, you and I, for the first, I'd say at least 2 seasons, if not, I'm going to say that at least for the first 3-4 seasons, we had no idea where we were going. I can say it now. We had no idea. Yeah. So when finally that click happened, we were like, oh my God, this is what karma is. And this is what it does.
Yes.
Right? It was so ahead of when we started, we were just laying groundwork to get to that, which now feels so fucking obvious to us. It's old news to the point where there's a whole letter in between that and where we are today. So actually, if we're just laying this groundwork and saying it's possible because we can conceive of a time when we're just so really fucking happy. Yes. And yes, there are souls coming in that seem that way. Like, let's just work towards coming here for a great time and having a great time. Cool. It's like everything. And you've said this before, but I understand it better now. If you can get to full consciousness, great. Which means with the 4 bodies, emotional, physical, spiritual, and mental, you are operating from your emotional, mental, and physical bodies, and you're making choices from that space, and you're incorporating not just your mental body, right? Mm-hmm. And the world will benefit from that space. If you can get to higher consciousness, even better, because then you also are able to see that you are the divine, you are connecting to your higher self, you're connecting to something bigger than you, and you're operating from that space. And again, this is all leading all the way through to the end of Karmic Adventure, right? In our books, we get to that place where we explain how love and the foundations of love, trust, faith, hope, and knowing, are love. And love, when you shine your light, is also how you work with your higher self and also how you connect to something bigger. So of course, as we build, there's going to be something else more than that. And again, if you go through that and you're exercising love and connecting to your higher self, you're going to find your happiness. And it's not going to, devoid of judgment, devoid of expectation, you're going to find something that really fucking suits you and you're going to feel fucking great about it. I don't have to talk about vibrations this or vibrations that. I can just say, like, when you're happy and you're shining, the world shines back at you. As we said a lot in the past season, that's the most beautiful person in the room vibe, right? And you can pick any episode from last season. I'm probably talking about it. And again, that really helps with the world and the world building around us, because the more you come from that space, the more you change your life. And we've always said that we're not just here to be happy for ourselves. We're here to share that. And that is how we serve. So the more we come into ourselves, the more we find that bliss for ourselves, the more the world has the potential to be truly blissful.
Just a little under a year ago that we started recording season 11. Not trying to like conjure up and recreate those conditions at all. But we are a year from that time. I was in a pressure cooker moment. I had just moved to New York, or shortly before, so I was just all over the place and stressed out. You were also going through something, and you were in a pressure cooker moment, and we also had a book to finish and a book to like edit, and we were really not in a great place. And I don't actually think it's reflected in the season as much as we want, as much as you might be inclined. But here we are, the first foundational season of Bliss a year later, which goes to show the potential for how far we can come in a short amount of time. And we have to cap off this first episode of the first official season of Bliss by stating that it can come in a short amount of time. It is not the time to lose hope, despite what is going on around the world. So as you said, not just happy, but also bliss can really help shift the world's vibration. So we've begun, because we're bringing it to the world by recording this.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You had that like look, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to finish this out loud.
But it's true. Like, I mean, I remember last year at this time. So look at the difference a year brings. This episode is brought to you by Karma Magic Bliss. For more information, resources, and links to our books, check out our website, karmamagicbliss.com, and Karma Magic Bliss across all socials.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.